The music swirled, the gowns shimmered, and yet he sat alone, ignored, avoided, treated like furniture. But when her shadow fell across his wheels and she whispered, "May I have this dance?" the entire room froze, because someone had finally seen him. The ballroom shimmered under cascading chandeliers, every crystal catching the light like a small star. Laughter swirled through the air, champagne glasses chimed delicately, and the orchestra played a song meant to charm the wealthy into feeling weightless. Everywhere, people glowed, adorned, polished, admired. Except him. Ethan Ward sat near the center of the room, alone, as if the crowd had learned to bend around him. His wheelchair rested in the golden glow, but no one truly looked. They threw polite smiles in his direction, the kind that vanished before they reached their eyes. He could practically hear their thoughts. Pretend you don't see the broken billionaire. Act normal. Keep moving. He kept his posture straight, but his fingers never stopped tapping the side of his wheel, rhythmic, restless, betraying the nerves he tried so hard to hide. The music stirred memories he wished he could silence, feet that once carried him through rooms effortlessly, arms that once held someone he loved, days when he could stand tall without thinking about it. Now, every whispered breath behind him felt like a reminder of all he'd lost. The dancers spun. The violinists reached a higher note. Someone laughed loudly at a joke made across the hall. Ethan stared at the marble floor and tried not to drown in it all. On the other side of the ballroom, Maya Robinson stepped inside and paused, not from fear, but from the familiar weight of entering a room where she would have to prove, again, that she belonged. Her emerald dress hugged her gently, her curls fell in perfect spirals, and her soft brown eyes searched the crowd for a place to stand. She was here for business, as a consultant invited by one of the sponsors, but the atmosphere made her feel like an uninvited melody in a symphony meant for the elite. She steadied her breathing and lifted her chin. She'd fought too long to let insecurity swallow her tonight. Then her gaze caught on him, the man in the wheelchair. Alone, isolated, surrounded by people, yet somehow untouched by all of them. She'd heard whispers earlier. "That's Ethan Ward. His accident changed everything. He looks different, quieter." But Maya didn't see different. She saw loneliness. It was in the way he looked at the dancers as if watching a world he'd been locked out of. In the way he avoided mirrors. In the way his jaw tightened each time someone walked past him without acknowledging he was human. Maya's breath caught slightly. That look, she knew it. She had worn it herself too many times. Rooms where she was overlooked, dismissed, treated like background music no one cared to listen to. Something pulled at her, subtle but real. Ethan shifted, sensing eyes on him. When he lifted his head and their gazes collided, he froze. Her expression wasn't pity. It wasn't discomfort. It wasn't that awkward sympathy people use to mask their fear of getting too close. It was warm. Still. Present. He wasn't sure when he'd last seen someone look at him like that. He looked away. She didn't. A server moved between them, carrying a tray of crystal flutes, but Maya stepped around gracefully, her eyes returning to Ethan with the same gentle focus. Her heart thumped, not with romantic spark, not yet, but with something human, something kind, something that whispered, "You aren't as invisible as you think." Ethan angled his chair ever so slightly, a quiet attempt to shrink himself from the room. The movement made Maya's chest tighten. She didn't understand why it hurt to watch a stranger fold into himself like that, but it did. Deeply. She took a small step toward him. Not bold. Not loud. Just deliberate. Ethan inhaled sharply. Someone was approaching him. That alone was unusual enough to jolt his pulse. He prepared himself out of habit, for the overly sympathetic tone people used, or for someone asking if he needed help even when he didn't, or for an uncomfortable stare that lingered too long. But when Maya entered the ring of light around him, nothing about her felt rehearsed. She simply stood there, not too close, not too far, offering a soft, genuine smile. It disarmed him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The music rose behind them, voices echoed around them, and yet it felt like the room had curved into a bubble around just the two of them. Maya studied his face gently, noting the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the exhaustion he tried so hard to bury. Up close, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man holding a fractured world together with quiet, exhausted strength. Ethan swallowed and looked down, unsure of what to do with attention that wasn't forced or fake. Maya's voice finally broke through the silence, soft, steady, carrying a warmth he didn't expect. "Are you okay?" He looked up, startled. No one had asked him that in months. Not sincerely. Her eyes didn't blink away. His didn't either. The air between them felt like the moment right before a door opens. A connection neither of them saw coming had just taken its first breath. If you walked into this ballroom tonight and saw someone being quietly erased by everyone around them, would you walk past or would you stop? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Before we continue, let me ask you something. If you were standing in this ballroom tonight and you saw someone sitting alone the way Ethan was, overlooked, ignored, forgotten, would you walk past or would you stop? Tell me in the comments. Your truth could change someone's life, and don't forget to subscribe, like and share for more. The orchestra shifted into a slower melody, a gentle waltz that wrapped around the room like a warm ribbon. Couples floated across the marble floor, swaying with practiced elegance. In all that movement, Ethan remained painfully still. Maya felt her breath catch at the sight. There was no reason her heart should tighten for a man she'd never met, yet the urge to speak to him hadn't faded. It had only sharpened. She stepped closer. Ethan straightened slightly, an automatic response, as if bracing himself for whatever the stranger might say. His pulse flickered with a strange mixture of hope and dread. Maya's voice reached him first, soft, warm, and without a hint of pity. "Would you like some company?" The question stunned him. The world didn't usually offer him choices anymore. It offered instructions, assumptions, and distance. But company? That felt human. That felt kind. Ethan looked up, unsure whether he was imagining the sincerity in her eyes. "You don't have to," he murmured, his tone quiet and edged with self-protection. "There are plenty of people here who actually matter." Maya's brows lifted slightly. "I walked over here, didn't I? I think that says you matter too." He blinked, because no one had said anything that simple and that true in a long time. She extended her hand. Not dramatically, not performatively, just a gentle offering of presence. "May I sit with you?" she asked. His throat tightened. The answer felt too heavy to push out, so he nodded. Maya moved a chair closer to him, but she turned it so she faced him rather than the dance floor. A small detail, a meaningful one. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," she said softly. Ethan let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "That obvious?" "To someone who knows the feeling," she replied. He studied her, curiosity slipping past his defenses. "And what feeling is that? Being in a room full of people, and still feeling like you're standing outside the window." Her honesty disarmed him. For a moment, neither spoke, not because of awkwardness, but because of truth. The music in the background shifted into another slow piece, and Ethan's gaze flicked toward the ballroom floor. Maya followed it. She didn't judge him for staring. She didn't rush him. She didn't pretend not to see his longing. Then she leaned in just a little. "You know," she said, "it's not the dancing that matters. It's being seen." Ethan swallowed hard, something fragile stirring in his chest. "People don't look at me the same way anymore." Maya tilted her head. "Then maybe they've been looking the wrong way." Her words knocked the air from his lungs. Maya stood then, slowly, as if giving him time to stop her if he wanted. She extended her hand again, not to shake, but to invite. "Ethan," she whispered, saying his name as though it were something precious and unbroken. "Would you like to dance?" The world stilled. The music faded. The conversations blurred. The chandeliers softened their glow. Ethan froze, his breath caught between disbelief and fear. "I can't," he muttered, eyes dropping to his hands. "Not the way people expect." "I didn't ask you to be like everyone else," Maya said gently. "I asked you to dance with me." For the first time in months, Ethan felt something warm, dangerously warm, pulling at the walls he'd built around himself. But instead of reaching forward, he pulled back. "I'm fine," he said, forcing distance into his tone. "You don't need to do this." The rejection wasn't sharp, it was scared. Maya could hear the tremor beneath his words. She didn't push him. She simply lowered her hand with grace and sat beside him again. "Okay," she whispered. "Then we'll just sit. For now." Her voice carried no disappointment, only understanding. That somehow hurt him more. Because for the first time in a very long time, someone saw him. And he didn't know how to handle it. But the night was not done with them yet. If you're reading this and you've ever been afraid to accept kindness because you didn't think you deserved it, tell me, what held you back the most? Your answer might help someone else feel less alone. The music shifted into something brighter, louder, the kind of melody meant to distract people from the truth of their own lives. Ethan stared at the dancers twirling across the floor, Maya's invitation echoing in his mind with a weight he didn't know how to carry. He had wanted to say yes. God, he wanted to. But wanting and believing were two different worlds. Maya could feel him pulling away, not physically, but emotionally, like a tide retreating from the shore. She saw the tension building in his shoulders, the stiffness in his jaw, the way he pressed his lips together as if holding back something raw. She waited, giving him room to breathe. Ethan finally exhaled, slow and shallow. "You shouldn't waste your evening sitting with me," he said. "People come here to be seen." Maya watched him carefully. "And what about you?" He didn't answer. Because the truth was too painful. He didn't believe he belonged on display anymore. Maya looked at the dancers again, then back at him. "I didn't come here to chase attention," she said softly. "I came here to be present. And right now, I want to be present with you." Ethan's breath hitched. He wasn't used to anyone choosing him. Not since the accident. Not since the people he trusted quietly drifted away. Not since the world labeled him as tragic instead of talented. "You don't even know me," he said, trying to sound indifferent. "Then let me," she replied. He opened his mouth to respond, but a group approached them, 3 well-dressed men and a woman in glittering gold. They weren't coming to greet him. They were passing by, laughing loudly about something he didn't care to understand. Except, as they passed, one whispered just loud enough. "It's a shame, really. He used to be something." The words sliced through him. Ethan stiffened, his eyes dropping, his fingers tightening on the wheel grips. He prayed Maya hadn't heard, but the subtle tensing of her jaw told him she had. She turned toward him. "Does that bother you?" she asked gently. "I'm used to it," he whispered. "That doesn't mean you deserve it." He didn't know what to do with that kind of compassion. It unsettled him, pulling at threads he'd buried under years of forced acceptance. He shifted, creating a small distance between them. "Look," he said quietly, "you seem kind. Too kind. But you don't need to pity me or—" "Stop." Maya's voice was firm, but not harsh. "If I ever pity you, I'll walk away. I'm here because something told me you didn't deserve to sit alone tonight. That's all." Her honesty stripped him bare. He wanted to believe her, wanted it so much it scared him. But vulnerability was a luxury he no longer trusted himself with. So he retreated, building a wall behind his eyes. "You should enjoy the party," he said. "Go dance. Go laugh. Don't worry about me." "Why not?" she whispered. "Because I don't want to hold anyone back." A quiet beat passed between them. Then Maya shook her head, barely perceptible but full of meaning. "You're not holding me back," she said. "You're the one holding yourself hostage." The truth of it hit him like a slow, heavy wave. Ethan turned away slightly, unable to meet her gaze. Maya watched him, saw the war happening behind his silence, saw the way he fought between wanting connection and fearing the cost of it. She didn't interrupt his conflict, but she also didn't leave. Instead, she gently laid her hand on the table between them, not touching him, just offering closeness. "Ethan," she said quietly, "let me be here, even if you don't know what to do with it yet." His throat tightened painfully. He'd spent months building armor out of loneliness. And suddenly here she was, soft, warm, patient, threatening to dismantle it with nothing more than sincerity. He wasn't ready, but he also couldn't ignore her. A long silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions neither dared to ask. Finally Maya whispered, "Tell me the truth. Do you really want me to walk away?" He closed his eyes. If he said yes, she would. If he said no, he didn't know what that meant yet. His answer came out barely above a breath. "No." Maya's lips curved softly. Not triumphant. Not relieved. Just understanding. She leaned back in her chair, letting the moment settle between them like a fragile truce. Somewhere in the distance, the orchestra shifted again, and for the first time, Ethan didn't flinch. Sometimes, the bravest thing isn't letting someone in. Sometimes, it's admitting you want them there. If you were Ethan, broken, guarded, and suddenly faced with someone who actually saw you, would you let them stay, or would you push them away to protect yourself? Share your honest answer. Someone out there needs to hear it. The crowd shifted, laughter rising and falling in shimmering waves, but for Ethan and Maya, the room felt strangely smaller now, quieter, as if the world had leaned in to watch something unfolding between them. A waiter approached with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. He offered some to Maya with a bright smile, and then, almost instinctively, skipped Ethan entirely. Maya's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me," she said gently. He didn't get a chance to choose. The waiter froze, startled, embarrassed. "Oh, my apologies, sir." Ethan waved it off, but something in his chest stung. Not because he was hungry, but because she noticed. Because she cared. After the waiter hurried away, Maya looked back at Ethan. "Does that happen a lot?" "All the time," he replied softly. "People assume I don't need anything, or that I shouldn't be bothered. That's not okay. It's easier not to fight it, he said with a tired shrug. People don't like being corrected. Then maybe they need to be corrected more often, she murmured. He almost smiled. Almost. Before he could answer, the event host, a tall man in a navy suit, appeared and tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats for dinner. Maya looked around, searching for a table number. Ethan sighed. He already knew what was coming. These events never planned his seating properly. Someone always forgot the wheelchair space, or placed him in a corner like an afterthought. The host scanned the room, then his eyes landed on Maya. Miss Robinson, he called, you're at table 7. You'll be seated with Mr. Ward. Maya blinked, startled. With? Ethan suppressed a groan. Of course, he muttered. Forced proximity. My favorite. She laughed, a soft, unexpected sound. Well, at least you got stuck with someone nice. His eyes flickered with something warm. I did. They made their way toward the table, Maya walking at his pace without making it obvious. She didn't rush ahead. She didn't hover behind. She simply matched him. It was the kindest thing anyone had done for him all night. When they reached table 7, Ethan's prediction proved right. The space had been set without any clearance. Chairs blocked his spot entirely. He braced himself for the usual discomfort, the usual awkward offers to fix it later, the usual dozen eyes staring while he tried to squeeze in. But Maya didn't wait for anyone. She stepped forward, slid the chairs aside with surprising efficiency, and created a comfortable opening for his wheelchair without making a performance of it. There, she said simply. Now you have space. No embarrassment. No spotlight. Just consideration. Ethan swallowed. Thank you. You don't have to thank me, she replied. You deserve space like anyone else. He looked up at her, and for the first time all night, he didn't feel like furniture. Dinner began. Conversations buzzed around them. Talk of investments, mergers, vacations in Santorini, a yacht someone just bought on a whim. Maya listened politely, but her attention kept drifting back to Ethan. How quiet he became when business elites made subtle digs. How he shifted uncomfortably when someone pretended not to see the wheelchair while nearly tripping over it. People spoke about him as if he weren't sitting right there, as if his silence meant invisibility. Maya felt her protective instincts spark again. When one man said, Ethan, you're lucky you don't have to deal with travel anymore. Everything must be easier from home. Maya's fork paused midair. Actually, she said calmly, mobility challenges make travel more complex, not easier. You'd know that if you asked instead of assumed. The man blinked. Ethan stared at her, stunned, grateful, shaken. She hadn't spoken aggressively. She hadn't raised her voice. She simply told the truth, the way no one ever did for him anymore. After the man awkwardly shifted the conversation elsewhere, Ethan leaned closer and whispered, You didn't have to do that. I know, she said, but I wanted to. Why? She met his eyes. Because you deserve someone in your corner. A silence fell between them. Not awkward, gentle. Full. Their plates emptied slowly, the orchestra played softer now, and the buzz of conversation grew dimmer. Ethan found himself watching her without meaning to. The way she smiled when someone asked her something, the way she listened with genuine interest, the way her presence calmed him even when the room felt overwhelming. When dessert arrived, Maya leaned in slightly. I'm still curious about something. What's that? You told me earlier that people don't look at you the same way anymore. She paused, choosing her words carefully. How do you look at yourself now? He froze. It was a question no one had dared ask. Not his colleagues. Not his board members. Not even the people he once called friends. Ethan's breath caught painfully. I don't know, he whispered. I'm still trying to figure that out. Maya's face softened, eyes warm. Then maybe tonight is a place to start. He didn't answer, not because he didn't have one, but because something inside him was shifting. Slowly, quietly, deeply. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't resisting it. If you've ever sat beside someone who made the world feel less heavy, tell me, did you lean into it, or did you run from it? Your story might mean more to someone than you realize. The ballroom lights dimmed slightly as the evening program shifted toward softer music and quiet conversations. Most guests drifted toward the lounge area for cocktails and networking, leaving the dining hall buzzing with only half its original crowd. Ethan and Maya moved together, slowly, naturally, toward the quieter section near a row of tall windows overlooking the city. The sky beyond was a canvas of dark blue, dotted with lights stretching across the horizon like fallen stars. It felt more intimate here, less performative, more honest. Ethan exhaled a little too deeply, as if the silence allowed him to breathe for the first time all night. Maya sensed it, saw the way his shoulders eased just enough to reveal the exhaustion he carried beneath his polished appearance. "Is this better?" she asked. He nodded. "Much." They settled into a quiet corner, Maya taking a seat on a love seat beside him, angled just enough to face him directly without crowding him. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was soft, not strained, an invitation, not a barrier. Maya let him take the lead. Ethan took a slow breath, hesitating, the words gathering but struggling to form. "I wasn't always like this," he finally said, looking out the window instead of at her. Maya didn't interrupt. "I used to walk into rooms like these and feel invincible," he continued. "People listened. They laughed at my jokes. They wanted to stand close to me." He paused. "And now they stand close enough to say they saw me, but far enough not to get too close." The bitterness wasn't sharp, it was weary. Maya folded her hands gently. "What happened?" Ethan's jaw tightened, not with anger, but with a quiet grief. "The accident," he whispered. She waited, giving him room. "It was 2 years ago," he said slowly, each word dropping heavy. "A drunk driver ran a red light. Hit my car from the side." His fingers moved unconsciously, tracing invisible shapes on the wheel rim. "They said I'm lucky to be alive." He let out a hollow laugh. "Some days, I don't feel lucky." Maya's gaze softened. She didn't rush in with platitudes or sympathy. She let him speak. "I lost more than the ability to walk," he continued. "I lost people. The ones I thought would stay." "People left?" she asked gently. "Quietly," he said, in ways that looked like space at first. Then silence. Then nothing. Maya felt her own heart tighten. Not from pity, but from recognition. He turned his head slightly, eyes still fixed somewhere distant. "My fiancée left 4 months after the accident." Maya inhaled sharply but didn't speak. She said she needed to rediscover herself. He swallowed. I knew what that meant. A heaviness settled between them. Not uncomfortable, but raw. Ethan finally looked at Maya, and what she saw in his eyes wasn't self-pity. It was truth. Bruised truth. "People think the hardest part is learning the chair," he said. "But it's not. The hardest part is watching people look at you and see less." Maya's voice was soft but unwavering. "Not everyone sees less." He held her gaze, something flickering. Hope, maybe. "Fear, definitely." "Tell me about you," he said quietly. "You understand too much for this to be coincidence." She looked away, her turn to hesitate. He waited. Maya intertwined her fingers, grounding herself. "I wasn't born into rooms like this," she said. "Growing up, people told me I should aim small. Play safe. I worked twice as hard for opportunities others got by accident." Ethan listened, fully present. "And when I did get in," she continued, "I learned how quickly people decide who deserves attention and who doesn't. Sometimes because of the way you look. Sometimes because of where you come from." Her voice didn't tremble, but something in it cracked open. "Sometimes you get talked over. Sometimes laughed at. Sometimes," she exhaled slowly, ignored completely. The words hit Ethan deeper than she knew. "So when I saw you sitting alone tonight," she said softly, "I recognized the silence around you. I knew that silence." Their eyes met, 2 different wounds cut from the same ache. Ethan's breath grew unsteady. "Maya, why are you being this open with me?" "Because you were open with me," she said simply. "And because people hide too often behind masks in places like this." She paused. "I don't want to hide tonight." The honesty hit him like a wave, unexpected, unguarded, healing. Maya's gaze drifted to something tucked in the pocket of his suit. She hesitated, then asked gently, "Is that a photo?" Ethan flinched, almost imperceptibly. He slowly pulled it out, a small, worn picture with creases along the edges. A younger Ethan stood beside a laughing woman with bright eyes, her hand resting loosely on his chest. "This was before the accident," he murmured. Maya studied the faces, not comparing, not judging, only understanding. "You look happy." "I was," he said. "Or I thought I was." "What happened to her?" Maya asked quietly. "She left," he whispered, "because she didn't want a future that looked like the one I have now." Maya looked at him steadily. "Then she didn't deserve your future anyway." Ethan blinked, stunned. No one had ever phrased it like that. Something inside him shifted, subtly but unmistakably. The room grew quieter. Their breath filled the space between them like a fragile thread weaving their worlds together. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel like a man stuck between what he lost and what he feared. He felt seen. And Maya, for the first time tonight, felt seen too. If you've ever opened up to someone and didn't know whether they would hold your truth gently or drop it, did you regret telling them, or did it change something in you? Share your answer. You never know who might need your courage. The city lights glowed softly through the tall windows, casting warm reflections across the floor. The chatter from the ballroom had faded into a muted hum, leaving Ethan and Maya in a pocket of quiet that felt strangely safe, like the world had stepped back to let them breathe. For the first time all night, Ethan didn't feel like he was being watched or judged. For the first time in a long time, he felt present. Maya shifted slightly on the love seat, turning toward him with a gentleness that made him feel less like a man being observed and more like one being understood. "You know," she said softly, "you're different than what people say." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what exactly do people say?" She hesitated, not wanting to hurt him. "They say you changed." "I did," he admitted. "Everything changed." Maya shook her head. "But you didn't lose everything. I see strength in you. Kindness. Humor you try to hide." She smiled faintly. "And a stubborn streak a mile wide." He stared at her, caught off guard. "Humor? Where did you find that?" "In the way you pretend you don't like attention," she teased. "When in fact, part of you misses being part of the world." Ethan's face softened, something new blooming behind his eyes. "Maybe. Maybe not." "Definitely," she whispered. Her voice lingered in the air, warm and close. Minutes passed, but they didn't feel empty. They felt like soft steps toward something neither of them could name yet. Maya noticed how Ethan's hands rested more loosely on his wheels now. No tight grip, no tapping, just calm. His shoulders, usually held in tension, eased enough for her to see past the armor he carried everywhere he went. She took a slow breath. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When was the last time someone sat with you like this? No expectations. No pretending. Just being here." Ethan's throat tightened. "Hard." "I don't remember," he whispered. Maya looked down for a moment, her chest aching, not with pity, but with empathy so deep it hurt. "Well," she said gently, lifting her gaze again, "I'm here. No expectations." Ethan swallowed, blinking faster than usual. "Why? You could be anywhere else." "Maybe," she said with a soft smile. "But nowhere else feels right at this moment." His breath caught. Maya's hand rested on the cushion between them, close enough that if he reached out, he would touch her. She didn't rush. She didn't lean in. She simply allowed the silence to cradle them. The orchestra in the other room began playing a slow, tender melody. Ethan's eyes flickered toward the sound. Maya followed his gaze. Then, gently, she asked, "If I asked you again, would the answer still be no?" Ethan looked down at his hands. The wheels. The limitations. The fears. All the reasons he'd built a life of distance. Maya's voice was quiet, but unwavering. "You don't have to stand to dance. You just have to feel safe." Safe. The word hit him harder than anything tonight. He looked up, and for the first time since the accident, Ethan nodded. Maya stood slowly, offering her hand, but with no pressure, no expectation. He took it, his fingers wrapped around hers, warm and steady, and she stepped close enough to be beside him without overshadowing him. "Guide me," he murmured. Her heart fluttered. She placed her free hand lightly over his. "We'll go slow." Ethan moved his chair gently as Maya walked with him, their hands connected, bodies aligned as if sharing the same rhythm. They didn't sway like the couples on the ballroom floor, but they moved. Together. Something in Ethan's chest loosened, releasing a breath he didn't know he'd been holding for 2 years. Maya looked down at him with a tenderness that didn't ask for anything, just offered. "You're doing beautifully," she whispered. He almost laughed. "We're barely moving." "That doesn't matter," she said. "This is a dance. Our dance." His eyes softened, filling with something warm, aching, hopeful. She leaned down slightly, not to kiss him, not to overwhelm him, but to rest her forehead gently against his temple. He closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he didn't feel broken. He felt connected. They stayed like that for a long moment, letting the music carry them in a quiet, imperfect, beautiful dance. When the song ended, Maya pulled back just enough to look him in the eyes. "See," she whispered, "you didn't lose the ability to be part of something beautiful." Ethan's voice trembled. "Thank you for not walking past me tonight." Maya's smile glowed softly. "Thank you for letting me stay." Sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it arrives gently, in the form of a hand that doesn't let go. If someone offered you a moment of connection when you least expected it, would you trust it, or would you question it? Your story could give someone hope tonight. The melody faded, leaving behind the soft murmur of distant voices and the hum of evening quiet. Ethan and Maya slowly separated, but their hands lingered a moment longer, his fingertips brushing hers as if reluctant to lose the warmth she had given him. For the first time tonight, he felt lighter, as if the room didn't shrink him, as if his wheelchair wasn't a spotlight on everything he couldn't be, as if he wasn't alone. Maya felt it too, the shift, the softness, the quiet gravity pulling them closer. She sat back down, still glowing from their shared moment, still feeling the echo of his trust in her palms. "Ethan," she began gently, but the moment shattered before her words could form. A shrill laugh cut across the quiet like a blade scraping glass. "Wow," a woman's voice drawled, dripping with false sweetness. "Ethan Ward, I didn't realize you were entertaining company." Ethan stiffened instantly, his spine straight, his jaw tense, his breath held hostage. Maya looked up. A tall woman in a silver gown stood before them, flanked by two men who wore the same smirking expression. The woman's eyes flicked to Maya, slowly, judgmentally, then back to Ethan with a familiarity that made Maya's stomach twist. "Hello, Claire," Ethan said quietly. His tone was even, but Maya caught the tremor hiding beneath it. Claire. His ex-fiancée. Maya's heart dropped. Claire fake smiled at Ethan. "I'm surprised you had the energy to socialize tonight." Her meaning sharpened like a needle. "I suppose anything is possible if someone is desperate enough for attention." Ethan's jaw clenched. His hand tightened around his wheel rim. Maya felt heat rise in her chest. "There's no need to be rude," she said calmly. Claire blinked dramatically. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were speaking." Her gaze swept over Maya, like she was something picked off the floor. "And you are, who exactly?" Maya held her ground. "Someone who treats him with respect." The men behind Claire snickered. Claire's lips curled. "Respect? Sweetheart, you don't know the first thing about him." She leaned closer to Ethan. "He used to be a man who commanded rooms. Now," she gestured lightly to the wheelchair, "he settles for anyone who gives him the time of day." The words hit Ethan with the force of a punch. Maya saw it, the way his eyes flickered, the microsecond of hurt he tried to hide, the instinctive recoil into silence. Claire wasn't finished. "You really shouldn't give him false hope," she said, her eyes slicing into Maya. "People like you don't usually stay." The insult was subtle but sharp enough to cut. Race, class, background. Claire had aimed for everything at once. Maya's breath caught, but before she could speak, Ethan finally found his voice. "That's enough," he said, but it came out thin, weak. Claire smiled, triumphant. "Just looking out for you, darling." Then she swept away with her entourage, perfume lingering like poison in the air. The silence she left behind was thick, suffocating. Maya watched Ethan carefully. His shoulders had collapsed inward. His hands shook slightly on his wheels. His eyes were distant, fading, dimming, retreating into a place she couldn't reach. "Ethan," she whispered, leaning closer. "Hey, oh, look at me." He didn't. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "You shouldn't be," he murmured. His voice was cold now, closed. She recognized the tone. It wasn't anger at her. It was shame. Deep, echoing shame. Ethan shifted his chair back slightly, creating space between them he didn't actually want, but felt he needed. "You should go," he said quietly. Maya blinked. "What? Why? You don't need to get dragged into my past. My problems." His jaw tightened. "Claire is right. I shouldn't expect anything more than what I am." Her heart cracked. "Ethan, don't say that." "It's true." "It isn't," she insisted, reaching for him. But he pulled his hand away, not harshly, not deliberately, but instinctively, the way someone withdraws from a flame that burned them before. Maya froze. The distance hurt more than she expected. "Ethan," her voice was small now, wounded. "I'm not here out of pity." "I know," he whispered, eyes closing tightly. "But I don't want you to regret being seen with me." Those words, quiet, broken, stabbed deeper than Claire's cruelty ever could. Maya's eyes stung. "I don't regret anything about tonight." "Maybe not now," he said. "But you will. People like her, they make sure of it." "Ethan, please." "I just need some time," he whispered, shutting down completely. Something inside him had snapped, the fragile thread of confidence, the growing warmth between them, the tentative hope he'd dared to feel. Maya felt the shift. She felt him slipping back behind his walls, brick by brick, shutting her out. But she also felt her own heart tightening, not just from what Claire said, but from the way he recoiled from her, choosing fear over trust. She stood slowly, steadying herself. "If you need space, I'll give it to you. But please no, her voice trembled. You matter more than you think. He didn't look up. Maya took one small step back, then another, her breath breaking inside her chest as his silence grew louder. And when she finally turned away, Ethan felt something inside him collapse completely. He had pushed away the only person who saw him. And she walked off carrying a hurt he never meant to cause. Sometimes the deepest heartbreak doesn't come from cruelty. It comes from someone who's afraid to believe they deserve kindness at all. If you've ever been hurt by someone who was hurting themselves, did you stay, or did you walk away? Your answer might help someone tonight. Night settled over the city like a heavy blanket, the kind that quiets the world but amplifies everything happening inside a person's chest. The gala had faded into memory, its glittering lights replaced by the lonely glow of street lamps as cars hummed past in distant rhythms. Maya walked out of the venue with slow, deliberate steps, each one echoing with the sting of Ethan's final words. She wrapped her arms around herself, as if to hold in the hurt he hadn't meant to give. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even surprised. She was disappointed. Not in him, never in him, but in the world that had taught him to fear being loved. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she made her way toward the taxi line. She kept replaying everything in her mind, the dance, the laughter, the fragile closeness they'd shared. And then Claire's voice slicing through it all like glass. Ethan's silence afterward hurt the most. It felt like watching a door close while she was still standing in the doorway. She reached the curb and paused. Her breath trembled. Why did this hit so deep? She whispered to herself. Maybe because she saw in Ethan the same wounds she'd carried alone for years. Maybe because for the first time in a long time, she had felt something real. Maybe because she had allowed herself to hope. But hope was a dangerous thing. It made falling hurt more. Inside the venue, Ethan remained in the quiet corner where she had left him. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't even breathe normally. Her absence was a physical ache, sharp, suffocating, undeniable. He replayed the moment she stepped back, the moment she tried to reach for him, the moment he pulled away, the moment her eyes dimmed. Why did I do that? He whispered to himself. The answer came quickly. Too quickly. Because he was terrified. Terrified of being seen. Terrified of being wanted. Terrified that if she drifted closer, she'd discover the truth he had buried beneath every smile and every breath. He didn't think he deserved love anymore. He stared at the doorway she'd walked through. A part of him wanted to follow her. Wanted to apologize. Wanted to undo the harm he'd caused with one terrified moment. But his body didn't move. His wheels stayed locked in place. Shame held him like chains, dragging him back into the darkness he'd lived in since the accident. People passed by, leaving the building, laughing, chatting. None of them noticed the man sitting silently in the corner, heartbreaking in his stillness. The room emptied. The lights dimmed. And Ethan finally whispered the truth to the quiet air. I miss her. His voice cracked. His chest burned. He reached up and wiped at his eyes, angry at the warmth gathering there. Finally, he forced his hands to move, gripping his wheels, turning toward the exit. Fear made him slow, but something stronger pushed him forward. He left the building alone. The night air hit him, cool, sharp, grounding. He closed his eyes and let the wind wash over him. And for the first time tonight, he made a choice. A real one. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small card, the event's entry badge with her handwritten name on the back. Maya Robinson. Her handwriting was neat, soft, careful. Just like her. He swallowed hard. I can't let her walk away believing she meant less to me, he whispered. His voice trembled. His hands shook. But he turned toward his car, where his driver waited, and spoke with quiet urgency. Take me to this address. He handed the card over. The driver nodded immediately, not questioning his client's tone for the first time in months. Ethan settled into the car. Every mile was a battle, fear telling him to turn back, courage pushing him forward. What if she doesn't want to see me? What if she's disappointed? What if I make things worse? But another voice, a voice he hadn't heard in years, rose beneath the fear. What if she's waiting? What if she needs to know she mattered to you? What if this is your chance to choose something other than loneliness? Maya arrived at her apartment and leaned against the door after closing it behind her. She kicked off her shoes, slid down to the floor, and let the quiet wrap around her. She wasn't crying. She was thinking. Thinking about him. Thinking about the pain in his voice. Thinking about the wall he had built so high even he couldn't see over it. And thinking about the way she felt seen by him too, before everything fell apart. Should I have stayed? She whispered. But then she shook her head gently. Love, Real love, couldn't grow if it lived inside someone's fear. He had to choose her, or at least choose himself. She stood slowly, walked to her window, and pulled the curtain open. The city stretched out below, glowing softly, full of people who were trying to heal from something. She wasn't alone in her hurting. She just didn't know Ethan was outside her building now, staring up at her window, battling the storm inside him. He took a deep breath. "I'm scared," he whispered, "but she deserves more than my fear." His hand rose and knocked lightly against her door. 3 soft taps. A pause. Then a quiet exhale. Inside, Maya froze. Her breath caught. Her heart leaped. She stared toward the door, unsure if she was imagining things. Another soft knock. "Maya?" His voice. Fragile. Bare. Hopeful. Her pulse raced. She stepped forward, one hand on her chest, one hand trembling toward the doorknob. Sometimes love doesn't arrive in confidence. It arrives in the courage to try again after breaking apart. If you were Maya, would you open that door, knowing the person on the other side might still be learning how to love themselves? Tell me honestly. I'd love to hear your heart on this. The hallway outside Maya's apartment was quiet, holding its breath as she stood frozen with her hand hovering over the doorknob. Ethan's voice, soft, unsure, trembling, still echoed in her mind. "Maya? Please." She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the weight of everything settle. His fear. Her hurt. Their unfinished moment. Then, with a slow inhale, she turned the knob. The door opened. Ethan sat there in his wheelchair, slightly hunched as if bracing for the worst. His eyes lifted to hers, full of apology, fear, and something even deeper. Something she recognized instantly. The desire not to lose what they had started. He swallowed hard. I wasn't sure you'd open it." "I wasn't sure either," she whispered honestly. He nodded slowly, accepting that without flinching this time. Her doorway light cast a soft glow over him, revealing how tired he looked. Not physically, emotionally. As if carrying years of loneliness he no longer wanted to hold. "Maya," he began, voice unsteady. "I'm sorry." Her breath hitched. "For what?" "For pushing you away," he said. "For letting her words get inside my head. For believing I wasn't worth your kindness." He paused, voice cracking. "I didn't want to hurt you. I just don't know how to be seen anymore." The honesty hit her like a soft, painful truth. She stepped closer. "Ethan, I wasn't hurt because of what you said. I was hurt because of why you said it." He lowered his eyes. "Fear." "Fear," she echoed. "Not rejection. Not disinterest. Just fear." He nodded barely. Maya crouched slightly so their eyes aligned. "You don't have to be unafraid for me. You just have to be willing." He looked up, eyes shimmering. "I am. I was just scared you'd see all the broken parts if you got too close." Her voice softened. "I already saw them. And I stayed." A quiet tremble passed through him. "May I come in?" he asked gently, almost shyly. Maya opened the door wider. "Please." He rolled inside, and she closed the door behind them. The apartment was warm, modest, beautifully lived in, soft lights, subtle scents, and a half-finished painting leaning against the wall. Ethan took it all in, grounding himself in the reality that she had allowed him into her world. She moved to stand in front of him. He reached for her hand, then stopped halfway, afraid of assuming too much. Maya closed the distance and placed her hand in his. The warmth between them was immediate. "Maya," he whispered, "I want to try. I don't know how good I'll be at any of this. But I don't want fear to decide for me anymore." She smiled, a slow, tender, heart-deep smile. "Ethan, love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up." The words settled between them like a promise. The soft hum of the city drifted through her window. The faintest melody floated from a neighbor's apartment, a slow song, quiet and tender. Ethan glanced toward the sound. Maya followed his gaze. He took a breath, courage gathering in the space her presence created. "Maya," he whispered, his voice trembling with vulnerability, "would you like to dance?" Her heart cracked open in the most beautiful way. This time, she didn't offer her hand, he offered his. She placed her fingers gently around his, stepping close enough that their foreheads nearly touched. Ethan positioned his hands on his wheels, and together, they moved, slow, unhurried, imperfect and perfect at once. Their dance wasn't about steps. It wasn't about rhythm. It wasn't about performance. It was about choosing each other in the quiet aftermath of fear. Maya leaned her head lightly against his, eyes closing as the music wrapped around them like a warm embrace. "You didn't lose your ability to dance, Ethan," she whispered. "You just needed someone who believed you still could." His breath stuttered. And I needed someone who believed I still deserved to try, he murmured. They stayed there, swaying, breathing, holding on, as the world outside kept turning, unaware of the small miracle happening in a quiet apartment. Two souls healing in each other's presence. When the song faded, Maya lifted her head, her hand brushing gently against his cheek. "Where do we go from here?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled, small, real, hopeful. "Anywhere, as long as it's with you." She exhaled, a soft laugh breaking through the tears she didn't realize she was holding. "Then let's start here." Their foreheads touched again. Breath to breath, heart to heart, fear to courage. Sometimes love doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes as a quiet knock at the door, and a choice to open it. "Before you go, tell me, have you ever had to choose between fear and love? And which one won? I'd truly love to hear your story."